Welcome back. I'm Kim Bailey. She's Fuliana Osborne, and this is Inside Exec. Today we're continuing our discussion with Nick Gorman about mental wellness at work, and we're going to explore how Nick uses his diaries to help him.
Nick, I'm interested in going back a little bit. The question that came to my mind was, how do you deal with, for want of a better word, cultural taboos about talking about these sorts of issues? Now, I would think that being a male in Australia would mean that you wouldn't talk about those things. So how do you deal with that when you've got people that come to you or that you identify that need to do this, but culturally, for whatever reason, this is not something that they're comfortable doing?
Kim, the whole idea of making it independent is crucial. At the moment, there's a huge reliance, and I think it's getting significantly better, which is great. Unfortunately, internal offerings are wonderful, but at the same time, there is a huge resistance to it. And I've certainly been there and done that and know how I felt. And there's that, whether it's reality or not, but the perception that your card will be marked if you show too much.
Yes.
I think that's really crucial because your mind's going, if I open up about this, about what's happening with me, therefore I'm in that promotion discussion and they're on the committee and how they get blah, blah, blah. And particularly, we know this, the stigma attached to men is correct, and they are naturally far more hesitant in opening up. So the key is making it totally independent, as in fact, my sessions, I transport them physically out of their building. I make them get into the lift, get down, and we meet at particular cafes around the city, just to give that independence. And secondly, I think, I don't know about both of you, but if I know that someone sitting opposite me has shown me their softer side or have been honest with me about their struggles and very happy to share and talk about it, then it's much more open. So I make a point of every session when I start a relationship with the client. There are many different things that I do, but one of them is to explain to them my background, where I've been, and I'm entirely open about it. I haven't been in a situation as yet where, I'm sure the people I'm meeting with have got a lot more going on, but it's amazing what comes from that honesty. And then it just becomes a bit of lack of judgment. It's a collaboration. We sit there and we work out some stuff together. I expose myself initially early, and I find that works wonderfully well, particularly with guys. But I've got to add, the environment's changed so much, even in the last few years, compared to 07, 08. I wouldn't have even known what was on offer for me within my workplace. I would have had a bit of an idea, but, I don't want anyone to see me. And there's that machismo aspect of it, which you highlighted, is really true. I think that is starting to change, and I hope these sessions with the people that I'm working on just make people, honest with themselves and share the story.
Nick, I also feel that maybe the fact that you've done the jobs that you have done at the levels you've done them, and you're already established in those people's eyes, the people that you're helping now, that they respect that. They respect the fact that you know what you're talking about, and the fact that you went through that journey of mental health, and now you're more credible. They can relate with you better. Do you think?
Look, I really do. I focused initially on working with people from a similar industry that I knew, because that was a natural fit, because I knew it, understood it, all that sort of thing. Over time, and I'm doing it now, but working with people in different industries, it's not the same, but it's same. You can transport a lot of stuff between different organisations, whether it be elite sports people or, whatever. But the credibility is really important. And it's funny, Fuliana, but I knew that would be put to the test when I met with people that didn't know me.
Right.
That's a bit of a free kick. Get in and they're like, I know Nick and I know what he's done and he's in my field and I've looked up to him or whatnot. When there's not that was a different challenge. Right. But again, it came down to how, I suppose, authentic you were for them to connect. And it's all about connection. Yes. They connect to that story. That's fantastic. If that resonates with them about someone who was on a path and it was getting everything they wanted, but actually gave it up when it was not the thing that they could have ever expected. I think they look at my CV, but more importantly is in that initial session, it's that connection. And they say, do you know what? I really resonate. I resonate with this. The beauty is because I'd spent so long in the environment going through what they're going through, promotional discussions and politics and all that, that does definitely help. There's no doubting. But it does get tested when you get people from outside that world. And I haven't had much issue with that. I hope that makes sense. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. But I do agree with you about the fact that if you're going to another industry, it's absolutely portable because you worked in the corporate environment, the politics, the personal needs, all those managing people, managing teams, reporting upwards, reporting globally, etc. It's all relevant no matter what industry.
I think you're really right. That sort of excites me because it's a fair amount easier to work with people within the industry that you know deeply. And the challenging aspect for me is that, and I'm realising they're just very similar issues. They're just very similar. It's just a different product.
I'd like to talk about the fact that you have used a diary for a long time. We've talked previously in other podcasts about diaries and journals and how useful they are. Do you use yours as a record of what you've done in the day, of how you're feeling, or is it more of a combination of that and the future thinking? And the second part of the question is, how do you keep it from being too negative? And do you read it over again? So there's 3 questions.
I'm so glad you asked that because I've got several things that help me manage my well-being.
Yep.
Again, everyone's really different, but a couple of them, naturally, the off-dues, exercise being crucial. I love getting into the ocean. I think that's very incredibly good for me. And also just being open and honest about what you're going through. And the other thing before I get to the diary is the honesty with those around you. I think that's so crucial around that aspect of mental health struggles.
Yes.
If you don't keep your partner or those close to you in the loop, then my goodness, it's just so unfair, and you're a team and it makes life a lot easier. Funny, but I look at my diary and I think I didn't only realise this not that long ago, it's underrated how much I use that to manage my mental health.
Right.
Because you can't escape your diary. And I started keeping a diary when I was 13. So I have got a stack of them. Imagine. And then I'm sure a lot of it, people roll their eyes. But for me, I've got them. And I'm not the most organised person in that sense. They're very different forms. Some are in exercise books and some are the back of other things. And, but they're there. And I often use them, Kim, as a reference to your last part of your question. What it does for me is that, and why I find it such a useful tool, is that I go back and it gives me an insight into my state of mind when I was euphoric or when I was down in the dumps, and how much longer it took me to write, for instance, after feeling flat. Or often when I'm flat, I'll write relentlessly. I'm not particularly, there's no structure to it. It's very at a whim. I'll do it every 3 or 4 days, but not, I don't keep to that. It's not rigid in that sense. But my goodness, the amount of joy I get from going back. One, I think it's great to know is we forget stuff, what's happened in your life, but also just how you dealt with adversity. And knowing, and I've had some pretty dark days, and knowing that no matter I don't want to, sound a bit high and mighty about this, but no matter how hard it gets, you know that, oh, right, that's okay, that's how I was. Wow, okay, and that's what I did. And 2 weeks later, I'm talking about something phenomenally exciting or other stuff going on. So it's great to know that you come out of stuff.
Yes.
And it's also, I don't write just negative. In answer to the second part of your question, I focus on really good stuff and things that I'd be proud to read to my kids about, things that are taking place and about their development, my wife, our relationship. And it's great reading for me. I'm not sure for anyone else, but I really I get great joy out of it on its own and also as a tool to manage my well-being. You know what? I actually, with mentees that I work with that are having their struggles. And I know a number of people do this in presentations and roadshows and whatnot for various businesses in mental health space. But I often tell them, I implore them, I don't tell them, I implore them, think about keeping a diary, because it is such a great way to get off things that are happening within you, to release it. With it's really obvious, but your partner might get sick of hearing it all the time. So use that as an avenue as well. And some of them have taken up on it and really getting great benefit out of it.
I think that's very important for us to reinforce. It is a message that we've used previously about the actual research that shows that writing something down does take it out of your head, stops you repeating itself in your head often and often. And I'm really pleased to hear that you do use it in that very active way, because it is constantly a measure of how far you've come.
And it's also a great historical. When I lost my parents, not that long ago, I remember I was writing really deep stuff. I don't even know where the words came from, but I look back on them, and that's a fantastic thing to have, to know, oh, wow, and I think that's good. And that often makes me feel upbeat, Kim.
Just on that same topic, I really think it's a great thing too, because I remember talking to some people who said they use it to look at it from a different perspective. So they go back and read it and think, this thing troubled me, but it's really nothing. Or this thing I managed and it was huge. And how they reacted, they look at that and they start learning about others in the team, for example. They're saying it gave them an appreciation about how other people, it might sound trivial to us, but it was a big deal for that person at that time. So it made them a little bit more aware of other people's emotions and feelings as well.
I had never thought of that, and I think that makes a whole lot of sense to me.
We'll take a break there in our discussion with Nick Gorman. We're talking about mental wellness at work. I'm Kim Bailey, she's Fuliana Osborne, and this is Inside Exec.